In the early 10th century, a formidable new power emerged from the shifting sands of North Africa, the Fatimid Caliphate. This Shia Ismaili dynasty, named after the Prophet Muhammad's daughter Fatima, traced its lineage to her and Ali ibn Abi Talib, placing itself in direct succession to the Prophet. Originally a clandestine Ismaili movement under the Abbasid Caliphate, the Fatimids proclaimed a divine mandate over Islam and challenged the supremacy of their Sunni rivals. To their devoted followers, the Fatimid Imam Caliphs stood as divinely guided guardians of the faith, rightful leaders of Islam by both lineage and heavenly decree. As we explored in Part 1, the Fatimid state's foundations lay in an underground network of Ismaili Dais missionaries who, by the late 9th century, were spreading Ismaili ideals throughout the Muslim world. Their efforts found fertile ground among the Berber tribes of Ifriqiya, in present-day Tunisia and eastern Algeria. In 909 CE, the Da'i Abu Abdullah al-Shi'i and his loyal Kutama Berbers overthrew the Sunni Aghlabid Emirate, paving the way for an entirely new regime. From hiding, Imam Abdullah, the Ismaili Imam, was brought forth and proclaimed as al-Mahdi Billah, the first Fatimid Caliph. In 909, the Ismailis were strong enough for their Imam, who had been in hiding, to emerge and proclaim himself Caliph with the messianic title of al-Mahdi, the divinely guided one. This marked the beginning of a new state and dynasty. Declaring himself the Mahdi, the divinely guided one, the new ruler established the city of Mahdiya on the Tunisian coast in 921 as his fortified capital, symbolically planting the seeds of a Shia caliphate in Sunni North Africa. Imam al-Mahdi Billah and his successors faced constant challenges as they consolidated the Fatimid state. The bulk of their new subjects were Sunni, mainly of the Maliki school, or Kharijite Muslims, many of whom viewed the Ismaili Shia rulers as heretics. Rebellions soon flared, including a major uprising by the Kharijite leader Abu Yazid in the 940s, but the Fatimid army, led by Caliph al-Mansur, crushed these revolts to secure the dynasty's survival. Even as they fought to secure their heartland, the Fatimids expanded westward. They brought Sicily under their influence and vied with the Abbasid-allied Umayyads of Al-Andalus in today's Spain and Portugal for control of the Maghreb. It was an extraordinary moment in Islamic history. 3 rival caliphates, all from the Prophet's tribe of Quraysh, claimed to be Islam's rightful leaders. In the east stood the Abbasids in Baghdad, descended from the Prophet's uncle Al-Abbas. In the west, the Umayyads had re-established themselves in Al-Andalus, and rising from North Africa, the Fatimids, descendants of Fatima al-Zahra, steadfastly pursued their ultimate goal of pushing east into Abbasid domains. From its inception, the Fatimid Caliphate was an ideological and political rival to the Abbasid Caliphate in Baghdad. The Sunni Abbasids, who had long claimed supremacy as caliphs, regarded the Fatimids as usurpers and dangerous heretics. Likewise, the Shia Fatimids viewed the Abbasids as illegitimate. In Fatimid belief, the Abbasids, and before them, the Umayyads, had no right to rule the Muslim community, for that right belonged exclusively to the family of the Prophet. The Shia opposed the Umayyad and Abbasid caliphates, whom they considered usurpers. They believed in the exclusive right of the descendants of Ali through Fatima to lead the Muslim community. Amid these struggles, the Fatimid leadership never lost sight of its ultimate goal: expansion eastward into the heart of the Islamic world, controlled by the Abbasids. The Fatimids' eyes turned toward Egypt, the rich prize that would serve as a gateway to Syria and beyond. Within a few decades of their founding, the stage was set for a bold campaign that would carry the white standard of the Fatimids from the Maghreb to the Nile. In the mid-10th century, the Fatimid Caliph Imams embarked on their most ambitious expansion. The 4th Caliph, al-Mu'izz li Din Allah, dispatched his greatest general, Jawhar al-Sikili, at the head of a formidable army to conquer Egypt, then a province weakened by chaos and nominally loyal to the Abbasids. In 969 CE, Jawhar's forces swept into Egypt with little resistance. The fall of Fustat and the surrender of the Ikshidid governors marked the end of Abbasid control and the dawn of Fatimid rule along the Nile. Following al-Mu'izz's orders, in the aftermath of conquest, a new capital was born. Jawhar was ordered to build Al-Qahira, or Cairo, just north of the old capital, Fustat. Cairo was founded under astrologically significant conditions, reinforcing Ismaili divine claim. Jawhar al-Sikili chose a time to begin construction that matched a specific celestial alignment. According to tradition, the foundation of Cairo, Al-Qahira, was laid on July 8, 969, at an exact hour when the planet Mars, Al-Qahir, was rising. Mars in Arabic is Al-Qahir, meaning the conqueror or the victorious. The city was thus named Al-Qahira, meaning the victorious, in harmony with the rising of Mars. This wasn't just poetic, it reflected the Fatimid claim of divine and cosmic legitimacy. In their esoteric Ismaili ideology, the stars, cosmos and imamate were all intertwined. In 973 CE, Caliph al-Mu'izz personally inaugurated Cairo, transforming it into the pulsating heart of the Fatimid Empire. Cairo was designed as a grand statement of imperial power. Its meticulously planned streets, imposing palaces, and monumental mosques evoked a sense of wonder and destiny. Beyond its role as an administrative center, Cairo blossomed into a vibrant metropolis of art, scholarship, and commerce. From their Egyptian stronghold, the Fatimids pressed north into Syria and the Levant. By the late 10th century, they extended their sway over parts of Palestine and coastal Syria, periodically controlling cities like Tyre, Sidon, and Tripoli. The Fatimid navy asserted dominance in the eastern Mediterranean, while on land they vied with local dynasties and later the Turkic Seljuks for influence in Damascus and Aleppo. The Fatimids also projected their power into the Arabian Peninsula. Through diplomacy and force, they gained suzerainty over the Hijaz, including the holy cities of Mecca and Medina. Winning the allegiance of the Sharifs of Mecca bolstered Fatimid religious legitimacy, as the Fatimid Caliph's name was proclaimed in the Friday prayer khutbah in Islam's holiest shrines instead of the Abbasid Caliphs. At their zenith, the Fatimids ruled a vast domain stretching across North Africa and the Middle East. The Caliphate at its height included Egypt, Syria, the Hejaz, the Yemen, North Africa, and Sicily, and commanded the allegiance of countless followers in the eastern lands still subject to the Abbasids of Baghdad. The green standard of the Fatimids now flew from the Atlantic coast of Morocco to the Red Sea, heralding a true empire of the Mediterranean and the Near East. The Fatimid Imam Caliphs, as descendants of Ali and Fatima, asserted themselves as the true Caliphs of Islam, refusing even nominal recognition of the Abbasid claim. This stark duality of caliphates, one in Baghdad and one in Cairo, created a deep rift in the Muslim world. For the first time, two rival commanders of the faithful simultaneously vied for the loyalty of the Ummah. The rivalry played out in both words and wars. A propaganda war raged in sermons, coinage, and correspondence. Each caliphate denounced the other's legitimacy while upholding its own. The Fatimids sent secret dyes eastward to spread Ismaili doctrine within Abbasid territories, seeking to subvert Baghdad's influence from within. In turn, the Abbasids and their Sunni allies used pulpit and pen to condemn the Fatimids as apostates. Militarily, the two powers struggled especially over the Levant, which became a bloody frontier. In the 10th and 11th centuries, cities like Damascus and Jerusalem changed hands multiple times between Fatimid forces and proxies of the Abbasids. The Fatimid ambition even extended to Baghdad itself. On more than one occasion, Fatimid armies and their Karamatian allies attempted to push through Syria and Iraq, dreaming of replacing the Abbasids in their own capital. Their target was Baghdad, the capital of the Fatimids' Abbasid rivals. Though these early bids failed, the Fatimid threat forced the Abbasids to seek new protectors, eventually inviting the Seljuk Turks to take up the sword in defense of Sunni Islam. For over 2 centuries, the Cold War of Caliphs continued, with Cairo and Baghdad each claiming to be the true center of the Islamic world. This rivalry would only be decided with the fall of one of the contenders, a fate that loomed in the distance as both caliphates grappled with new internal and external challenges. Back in Egypt, the Fatimids founded the al-Azhar mosque in Cairo in 970 and later developed into a center of learning. After the conquest of Egypt, the Fatimid Caliphate entered a golden age of prosperity, learning, and cultural brilliance. With Cairo as their capital, the Fatimid Imams presided over a cosmopolitan empire. Caliph al-Aziz and his son al-Hakim bi-Amr Allah oversaw a flourishing of arts and sciences. Cairo blossomed into a center of scholarship. The Fatimids established institutions that would leave a legacy for centuries. The magnificent Al-Azhar Mosque, begun in 970 to celebrate the new capital, was by 988 expanded into a university, the first true Islamic university, where scholars taught theology, law, astronomy, and philosophy. In 1005 CE, Al-Hakim founded the Dar al-Hikmah, House of Wisdom, a grand library and research academy in Cairo, throwing open its doors to scholars of all faiths. This house of knowledge housed a collection of books so vast and comprehensive that it was famed as a wonder of the world by contemporaries. Fatimid libraries and colleges trained missionaries and provided advanced education to converts who flocked to Cairo, reflecting the dynasty's commitment to learning and the propagation of Ismaili ideals. Under Fatimid rule, religious and ethnic tolerance generally prevailed. Christians and Jews, collectively known as people of the book, were often treated with respect. Many served in high offices at the Fatimid court. For example, the brilliant wazir Yaqub ibn Kilis, a convert from Judaism, was appointed vizier in 979 and helped organize the empire's finances and administration. This environment of intellectual curiosity and relative inclusivity drew talent from across the Middle East. Luminaries such as the mathematician al-Hasan ibn al-Haytham arrived in Cairo, where he famously attempted to regulate the Nile under al-Hakim's patronage. Arts also thrived. Fatimid artisans produced exquisite metalwork, woodwork, manuscripts and ceramics, blending influences from their far-reaching domains. Economically, the Fatimid Caliphate stood at the crossroads of trade and innovation. Thanks to Egypt's strategic position linking the Mediterranean and Indian Ocean worlds, Cairo became immensely wealthy. Merchants traded actively with North Africa, the Middle East, India, and even China, riding the monsoon winds to bring coveted goods like spices and silks to bustling Egyptian markets. Caravan routes and seafaring fleets, protected by Fatimid might, carried flax, gold, and glass in exchange for luxury items. Diplomatic ties extended as far as the Song dynasty, illustrating the wide reach of Fatimid influence. This prosperity enabled ambitious public works, from grand architectural projects to hospital construction and advanced irrigation systems, ensuring both the capital's splendor and its citizens' welfare. In this era of cultural renaissance, Cairo, under the Fatimids, truly earned its place as one of the medieval world's greatest centers of learning, commerce, and artistic achievement. Few figures in history have inspired as much fascination as the Fatimid Caliph al-Hakim bi Amr Allah. The reign of Imam al-Hakim bi Amr Allah stands out as both a high point and a source of controversy in Fatimid history. Al-Hakim, ruling from the age of 11, gained a mixed reputation for his enigmatic personality and dramatic decrees. On one hand, he patronized learning, founding the Dar al-Hikmah and expanding al-Azhar, and maintained stability. On the other, he could be capricious or harsh. He infamously ordered the destruction of the Church of the Holy Sepulchre in Jerusalem in 1009, straining relations with Christians. His reign was marked by brilliance, capricious decrees, and profound mystery. Al-Hakim's actions ranged from magnificent patronage of arts and science to harsh edicts that confounded his subjects. He also imposed eccentric bans, such as briefly outlawing certain foods and women appearing in public, and was rumored to roam Cairo incognito by night. His sudden disappearance in 1021 remains one of history's enduring enigmas. Al-Hakim disappeared under mysterious circumstances during one of his nightly incognito outings, never to be seen again, vanishing without a trace, leaving behind whispers that he had entered a state of divine concealment. In 1021 CE, one night, Al-Hakim left his palace in Cairo for his usual night ride. He never returned. Days later, his bloodied garments were found, but no body. His disappearance was officially declared a death. The mysterious death of Caliph al-Hakim bi Amr Allah is surrounded by rumors, legends, and conspiracy theories. His sudden vanishing act stunned the empire. After al-Hakim, his sensible sister Sit al-Mulk ensured a smooth succession, installing his young son Ali as Caliph al-Zahir. In the wake of al-Hakim's disappearance, some of his most fervent followers refused to accept his passing. They came to believe that he was not only an imam, but also a divine incarnation destined to return. Over time, this religious movement evolved into what is known as the Druze faith. The Druze rejected al-Hakim's successors and ceased to acknowledge the Fatimid imams, effectively breaking away from mainstream Islam. The Druze movement soon found itself at odds with mainstream Fatimid authorities. As the new sect rejected the legitimacy of subsequent imams, the Fatimid regime responded harshly, persecuting Druze communities in regions such as Antioch and Aleppo. This schism would have far-reaching consequences in the religious landscape of the Middle East. In modern times, the Druze communities live in Syria, Lebanon, and Israel, still waiting for the return of al-Hakim. The long reign of al-Mustaʿli Billah followed, and with it came the apex of Fatimid glory as well as the first signs of decline. Al-Mustaʿli ascended the throne as a child, but under the guidance of strong viziers, the empire initially remained secure. By the mid-11th century, the Fatimids still commanded respect across the region. Their coinage circulated widely, and their name was honored in Mecca and Medina. However, calamity struck in the form of a prolonged drought and famine in Egypt, circa 1055 to 1072, that brought the kingdom to its knees. The Nile failed to flood adequately for successive years, leading to crop failure, starvation, and disease on a massive scale. This crisis drained the treasury and ignited conflicts at court. Factional rivalries within the Fatimid army, divided into ethnic factions, Berber, Turkish, Sudanese, erupted into open conflict. By the 1060s, civil war raged in Cairo's streets between military factions, and the Caliph was powerless to stop it. Political and ethnic factionalism within the army led to a civil war in the 1060s, which threatened the empire's survival. Chaos reigned until a forceful Armenian general, Badr al-Jamali, was invited to restore order as vizier in 1073. Badr al-Jamali ruthlessly pacified the factions and essentially took the reins of government, stabilizing Egypt and saving the regime from collapse. Under Badr's military dictatorship and that of his son al-Afdal after him, the Fatimid state enjoyed a brief revival. But by the time al-Mustaʿli died in 1094, the Golden Age was truly over. The Caliphate had been gravely weakened, setting the stage for fragmentation and foreign conquest in the decades to come. At the heart of this decline was the Nizari split. This consequential schism occurred later in the Fatimid dynasty, in the succession crisis of 1094. That year, the great Caliph al-Mustaʿli Billah died after a 58-year reign. The question of his succession sparked a bitter dispute and split the Ismaili world in two. Al-Mustaʿli's elder son Nizar was widely seen as the rightful heir. However, the Fatimid vizier al-Afdal, son of Badr al-Jamali, favored a younger son, al-Mustaʿli, who was more malleable to his influence. In a swift move, al-Afdal declared al-Mustaʿli the new caliph. Prince Nizar, feeling betrayed, rose in revolt in Alexandria, asserting his claim to the Imamite. The civil war was brief but intense. Nizar was defeated, captured, and reportedly executed or died in prison in 1095, securing al-Mustaʿli's position on the throne in Cairo. Yet the controversy did not end with Nizar's death. It reverberated across the Ismaili community from Egypt to Persia. The succession crisis resulted in the breakaway of the Nizaris, who supported the claim of Mustaʿli's oldest son Nizar, as opposed to the Mustaʿlis, who supported the successful enthronement of al-Mustaʿli. The Nizaris were also suppressed inside the Caliphate's borders, but continued to be active outside it, mostly in Persia. In other words, the Ismaili faithful split into two rival branches, the Nizari Ismailis, who upheld Nizar as the rightful Imam, even though he was no longer alive. They believed his lineage continued in secret and went into hiding, and the Mustaʿli Ismailis, who remained loyal to the Cairo-based Fatimid Imams. Within Fatimid domains, al-Afdal crushed Nizar's supporters, but far away in the mountains of Persia, the Nizari cause found new life. There, an Ismaili missionary and strategist named Ḥasan-bin Ṣabbāḥ rallied support for Nizar's line. Even before the schism, Ḥasan-bin Ṣabbāḥ had established a secure stronghold at the fortress of Alamut in northern Persia in 1090. After 1194, he openly defied the Fatimid regime, declaring that the true Imam was Nizar and his progeny, rather than Mustaʿli. Although Nizar was martyred, it is believed within Nizari tradition that one of his sons survived and was smuggled out of Egypt secretly. This son became known as Imam al-Hadi. He went into hiding, just like his ancestors, before the rise of the Fatimid Caliphate. The details of how he was taken into hiding are deliberately veiled in secrecy due to the immense danger facing Nizar's family at the time. Most accounts suggest that trusted dais and loyal followers facilitated his escape, possibly through the Fatimid underground networks or via Syria into Persia, where the Nizaris under Ḥasan-bin Ṣabbāḥ had established a stronghold already. Imam al-Hadi and his successors lived in concealment, satr, for several generations, guiding the Nizari community through appointed dais like Ḥasan-bin Ṣabbāḥ, who acted as deputies of the hidden imams. The Nizari's break with Cairo was permanent. They evolved into an independent Ismaili community with its own line of imams, a line that continues unbroken to the present day. Meanwhile, in Cairo, the Fatimid Mustaʿli line continued for a few more decades. After the Nizari split in the late 11th and 12th centuries, the Fatimid Caliphate entered a steep decline, and their legitimacy weakened. After 1130, the Mustaʿli Ismailis themselves split into more factions following another succession dispute. The long-term effects of internal strife, succession disputes, and natural disasters had greatly enfeebled the state. By now, the caliphs in Cairo were often figureheads, while real power lay in the hands of military viziers. After the Nizari-Mustaʿli schism of 1094, the newly enthroned Caliph al-Mustaʿli and later his successors Alamut and al-Hafiz ruled over a realm much diminished in spirit and strength as their legitimacy had weakened. As the internal cracks widened, the external pressures mounting on the Fatimid realm became impossible to ignore. In the Levant, the First Crusade unleashed a wave of new challenges. In 1098, Crusader armies captured Jerusalem, a city the Fatimids had only recently reclaimed from the Seljuks. The shock of this loss reverberated throughout the region, isolating the Fatimid state even further. In 1099, as Crusaders consolidated their hold over key territories, the Fatimid navy and armies found their influence in the eastern Mediterranean slipping away. The cumulative effect of these external encroachments accelerated the decline of the once mighty empire. These interventions would prove fatal to Fatimid independence. Sensing the decay of Fatimid authority, Nur al-Din Zengi, the Sunni ruler of Syria, sent his Kurdish general Shirkuh, accompanied by Shirkuh's young nephew Salah ad-Din al-Ayyubi, known to the West as Saladin, to Egypt to secure it for Sunni Islam. After a tangled conflict involving Shawar and the Crusaders, Shirkuh's forces took control of Cairo in 1169, and Saladin succeeded Shirkuh as vizier of Egypt. Saladin steadily dismantled the Fatimid establishment. The young Kurdish general won over the army, sidelined the Fatimid bureaucracy, and prepared the populace for a return to Sunni allegiance. In 1171, the end came quietly but definitively. Saladin had the Abbasid Caliph's name proclaimed in the Friday prayer in Cairo, a symbolic act announcing that Egypt once again recognized the Caliph in Baghdad. The ailing Caliph al-Adid, last of the Fatimid line, died shortly thereafter. Having ensured there would be no Fatimid revival, Saladin declared the Fatimid Caliphate abolished and assumed control in the name of the Abbasid Caliph and his own family, the Ayyubids. The black flag of the Abbasids was raised in Cairo, replacing the Fatimid white and green banners. After 262 years, the Fatimid dynasty was no more. Saladin and his successors went about erasing the vestiges of Ismaili rule. The Dar al-Hikmah library was closed, Ismaili scholars were exiled, and Egypt was firmly steered back to Sunni orthodoxy. The magnificent Fatimid palaces in Cairo were gradually dismantled or repurposed by the Ayyubids and later regimes. Though it ultimately fell, the Fatimid Caliphate left a profound and enduring mark on Islamic history. As the first and only long-lived Shia dynasty, it stood as a daring experiment in Shia Islamic governance, enduring for over 2 centuries. Under its Caliph Imams, Ismaili thought flourished, yielding a rich legacy that resonates in Ismaili doctrine even today. During their reign, the Fatimids championed scholarship, art, and science, contributions that influenced neighboring cultures and spurred valuable exchanges of knowledge. This era of Shia rule also energized wider Islamic discourse. Both Sunni and Shia scholars were driven to address, refine, and respond to each other's. Cairo's famed House of Wisdom welcomed scholars of diverse origins. The Fatimid commitment to learning not only reshaped North Africa and the Middle East, but also helped transmit ancient wisdom to Europe, feeding a broader intellectual movement that would later spark the Renaissance. As the grand Fatimid Empire slowly faded into history, its caliphate abolished, and its once dazzling palaces falling quiet, many believed that the Ismaili flame would flicker out forever, but far away, in the rugged mountains of Persia, another chapter was already unfolding. The followers of Nizar, unwilling to accept the Fatimid succession imposed in Cairo, carved out their own path, creating what would become the Nizari Ismaili state. Shielded by towering fortresses like the legendary Alamut, these determined believers preserved both their faith and the lineage of their Imams, defying the political upheaval that had swallowed the Fatimids. Over time, their resistance became legendary and notorious. Known to history as the Hashishans, or the Assassins, they struck fear into the hearts of enemies, wielding not just swords, but also mystery, stealth, and political intrigue. Their name became synonymous with danger and intrigue, echoing throughout medieval Europe and the Middle East. In part 3 of our series, we will delve into the dramatic rise of these Nizari Ismailis, separating myth from reality in their storied history. We'll uncover the philosophies that shaped their mission, the strategies that preserved their independence, and the beliefs that continue to guide a vibrant community today. Don't miss our next episode as we step into the shadowy world of the Assassins, where faith, intrigue, and resilience combined to forge a legacy still very much alive. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please like, share it. Also hit the notification bell and subscribe. Until we meet again, may peace and blessings be with you.